Hey friends, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am super excited about this process video today. It is my first layout for the cut shop for this new design team term, and I'm going to be using the Autumn Acres cut file. This was a newer cut file that I believe was released last week, and as you can see on the screen, I have already cut the cut file. I actually cut it 4 times, but I just have one on the screen right now. And I am using a Shimmers paint to paint that cut file. I originally cut it on white cardstock, but when I placed the cut file onto the pattern paper background, which you will see in just a moment, it was a little too bright. So I wanted to tone down that white a little bit. And this peachy pink color was the perfect color for the collection that I'm going to be using. And I use a majority of the Maggie Holmes Gather Collection for this layout. So there I painted one of the cut files. Now I'm bringing in a second one. And that Shimmers paint, if you have never used it, this is one, I believe it's a Creamies. I showed you at the beginning of the video, but it comes hard and you have to put water into that little pot and kind of let the water soak in that pot to activate the paint. The less time that the water is in the pot, the lighter the color is going to be. The longer that the water sits in that little pot, the more rich the color will be. And I was being a little impatient, so I did have to put a couple coats of that paint on these cut file images to get the depth of color that I was looking for. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think that is such a pretty color. There I was showing you the photo. That is a photo of me and my son that was taken last fall. We were raking leaves and he was having so much fun jumping in the leaves, and I jumped in them a couple times with him. And this is one where we were both just kind of laying in the leaf pile and he let me snap this photo, and I love the smile on his face. This is a genuine Aiden smile, and I was so happy with how this picture turned out. I have no makeup on in the photo. It was really a yard work kind of day, and I just think it's such a sweet photo though. I love his smile and his facial expression. You can tell that he was having such a great time. Now, just a few moments ago, you saw me going through the Maggie Holmes 6x6 pattern paper pad, and that is from the Gather Collection. And my original thought for this layout was to have the cut file images going off the 12x12 background and then adding pattern paper behind each of the open areas on the cut file. And I actually backed a couple off camera, and I just wasn't really happy with how it was looking. I felt like it was way too distracting. The cut files being large already adds a little busyness to the background, and adding a wide variety of mix of patterns was just too much. So I decided to go with this design. I had played around off camera a little bit, and this was the design that I decided on. And this cat, I left this in this video because I see all these photos on Instagram and in the Facebook scrapbooking forums of people taking photos of their cats on their scrapbook pages and on their tables, and I have never had that happen. We have another cat, and we have had him almost 13 years, I believe, and he has never jumped on my scrapbook table. Never. He'll lay on the floor next to me when I'm scrapbooking, but he never jumps on the table. And the cat that you saw in the video, her name is Cloud. We just adopted her late in the summer, and she just jumped right up on my table when I was working, and I was so surprised by it, and I just thought it was so funny because I see all those photos all over social media. So I left it in the video because I know there are so many scrapbookers out there that can relate to that happening, so I just thought it was kind of funny. Okay, so getting back to the layout, I am adding some white gesso to the background because I have decided that I want to add some mixed media, and I am using white gesso because I want to fade out that pattern paper just slightly, and I want to use white because I want the yellow mixed media colors that I'm going to be using to stay true to their color. I don't want them to fade into that wood grain background. I want to make sure that they stay the true yellow that they are. If you've ever used mixed media on a background, especially liquid mixed media, so whether it's sprays or watercolors, and you're trying to use it on a pattern paper, it does change the color a little bit. It doesn't stay true to its color when you add it on top of, say, this wood grain or just another color in general. So I just wanted to use that white to have a clean white surface, so that way the colors would stay true and I didn't have to worry about what color they would turn into once I added them to the pattern paper. I'm going to use a couple different products from a couple different manufacturers to add the color to the background. I'm starting with a Shimmers product, and that is Glorious Day. I believe it's a Vibes. It's this really pretty golden yellow color. And now I'm bringing in my Prima watercolors. This is the tropical set, and I'm just going to use a yellow from that set and the packaging technique to apply the color to the background. While I am working on this background, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cut Shop. I was part of the Cut Shoppe Design Team last term. It ended in June, and Ashley Horton, who is the owner of the Cut Shop, had decided at that time that she was not going to be releasing designs on a regular basis in the Cut Shop Etsy store. So she was no longer going to need a design team. And I was really, really sad when I found out that she wasn't going to be continuing on with a design team, because I love being part of that design team. It was so much fun, and I love Ashley's design. So I was also really sad that she wasn't going to be releasing new cut files on a regular basis. And later in the summer, I believe it was August, she sent me an email and she told me that she was going to be starting the design team up again and asked if I would join for another term. And I immediately said yes. I was so excited. If you are new to my channel, I am a Cricut user. I use a Cricut Explorer for all of the cut files. I do have quite a few Cricut tutorials on my channel. I have a couple playlists. A lot of the tutorials are done in Design Space 2.0. I do have a few in 3.0, and I will have many more coming. But all of the tutorials that were recorded in Design Space 2.0 can still be applied in Design Space 3.0. The different icons for the features like slice and contour, those type of things, are just going to be located in different areas on the design screen, but all of the techniques will remain the same. If you ever have any questions about any of the techniques I use, always please feel free to leave a comment. I am more than happy to answer any questions. And if you have any suggestions for different tutorials or techniques that you would like to learn, please let me know also, and I will look into making a video for those different techniques. So getting back to the layout again, I have added, or I'm getting ready to add, some pattern paper to the background in just a few areas on the cut file. That word sweet is a chipboard thicker from the Maggie Holmes Gather Collection, and it was the only green that I had on the layout, so I wanted to add a little bit more green, and I thought just adding a few pops of green behind the cut file image would be a perfect way to do that. It was a little too bold, the pattern paper that I chose, which was from the 6x6 Gather paper pad. So I am adding a layer of vellum first, and then I'm going to adhere that pattern paper behind the vellum, and it's just going to mute that green just enough to make it not stand out too much, but that you can still see that it's there. And off camera, I did a ton of hand stitching around all of those leaves, but I love the texture of hand stitching, so I always enjoy the process. I just punch all the holes in the paper and then just sit in front of the TV and watch a movie with my husband while I'm stitching. I find it really therapeutic and I really enjoy it. Now I am adding some tissue paper behind the photo. I did want to separate the photo from the background slightly, and I think tissue paper is a great way to do that. It also adds some texture to the background, which is another fun element of the tissue paper. Okay, so I want to go back to the mixed media for just a quick second. If you look really closely at the layout, to the very right hand side, kind of right underneath that letter T, you can see where the watercolor was applied to the background where there was no gesso. And you can see the difference in the color. It's almost a rusty orange color. And I like that there's a little bit of that color kind of peeking off the edges. I feel like it adds a little bit more depth to the watercolor, but that was not the overall color that I was going for. Had I not applied the white gesso to the background, my entire background would have been that rusty orange color. So that was just a prime example of what white gesso will do for you on a pattern paper or a colored cardstock background. So I've now moved on to the embellishing part of the layout, and I'm going to add the word fall underneath the word sweet, and I am using some gold foam thickers. They are the Hazel thickers. I believe they're from the One Canoe 2 Hazelwood collection. I've also added a couple leaf die cuts to the left side of the photo, and those are from the Maggie Holmes Gather Ephemera Pack. I really started to struggle with embellishing at this point. I didn't want to add too much more to the layout because I felt like it was already pretty busy with that large cut file background, but I wanted to add enough to fill in some of the areas that looked a little bare. So I am going to add a couple more of the chipboard pieces from the Maggie Holmes Gather Thickers sheet. And now I'm bringing in some rub-ons from Pebbles, and this is from last year. And they are these really pretty gold foiled leaves, and I'm going to apply them in just different areas around the layout just for another added visual interest. Now, I did have a little bit of trouble with these rub-ons. There was one in particular that had lost its sticky and I could not get it to transfer onto the background. But all of the other leaves that I used went on super smooth, just like they did when I first got these rub-ons. And I will consider that a win. As we all know, rub-ons do expire and they eventually dry out. So for having these over a year and a majority of them still working, I am super happy with that. This is the one that I had some trouble with. It just would not transfer onto the background. So I ended up deciding just to add another leaf in that area, and it went on super smooth and perfectly. So I added, I think, 5 rub-ons total, just scattered them around the page. I am going to adhere down those tiny little chipboard pieces with some liquid adhesive. And now I'm still trying to decide what else I want to add to the layout, if there's anything more I want to add or if it's just going to be too distracting. So I'm going through some odds and ends. I do end up adding a few gold foiled hearts from the Maggie Holmes Chasing Dreams collection, and it is from the sticker sheet. Right now I'm still just going through different odds and ends that I have. These are some brads that I had purchased from Michael's a long time ago. I'm going to go through my flare buttons to see if there's anything else that I can add, and a majority of those flare buttons in that bowl are from the Crafty Pocket, and I included those in a haul video that I did recently. I wasn't really happy with any of those things, so I go back to the gold foiled hearts from that Maggie Holmes sticker sheet, and I'm just going to add a couple to the left-hand side of the page, and then I'll add a few more to the right side of the page just for some added pops of gold. This is a little banner piece from that same Chasing Dreams sticker sheet, and I thought about adding it underneath the photo, but it was just a little too distracting. These are a couple more stickers from that same sticker sheet. I thought about adding them as layers behind the photo, but again, they were just too distracting. And that's a gold foil leaf. I add it in to that leaf cluster, but I end up taking it off later on in the video. Embellishing is my favorite part of scrapbooking, but it also can be the most frustrating part when you can't find the perfect thing that you want to add. I am really happy with how this layout turns out, but it took me a really long time just to decide on adding a scattering of gold foiled hearts around the layout. So for final touches, I'm going to add some gold Heidi Swapp color shine just to add a little bit more to the gold theme that I have going on. Here are the still shots of my layout. I hope you enjoyed this process video. I am super excited to be back with the Cut Shop, so you will be seeing plenty more videos from me using the cut files. Please remember to head to the Cut Shop Etsy store. There are new designs released every 2 weeks, and I will be back again soon with a new process video. Thanks so much for watching.